GoForThe2.com in with the Week 14 selections. Before I give you the picks for this coming Saturday, this weekend, November 30th, live from the Sports Grid studio at the FanDuel Sportsbook. College football today, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. You could stream us live for 3 straight hours. Pluto TV, channel 517. This coming Saturday, big ball games, Michigan, Ohio State. You got Alabama and Auburn. Doesn't get better than this. Check us out for the pregame, 3 straight hours, sportsgrid.com or Pluto TV, channel 517, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern. Let's start with the selections. They start on Friday. Big battle taking place in the Liberty Bowl, Memphis and Cincinnati. Memphis has won 3 straight in the series by an average margin of victory of 20.3 points per game. Got this victory back in 2016. That was the last time they played, 34-7. You look at Memphis, they're 10-1 overall, have a solid quarterback in Brady White. Playing at home, they're very well and have won almost every game over the last couple of years and have stepped up against the better teams on their schedule over the past few seasons, especially from a Power 5 perspective. But they're going up against a very physical offense and defensive lines in Cincinnati. When you look at Cincinnati, 2 games against South Florida and Temple, 5 points. They won those ball games, 2 blue-collar efforts. They won by 3 against South Florida, picked up a 15-13 win over Temple in that matchup. They now go on the road as an 11-point underdog. I think they'll be in this ball game from start to finish. Cincinnati's ability to run the football with Michael Warren, they're averaging 197 rushing yards per game. Their ability to shut down the run, they're holding opposing offenses to only 133 rushing yards per game. And more importantly, their ability to force turnovers, +8 in turnover margin, is the difference for me in breaking down this ballgame. When you look at Memphis, they're a finesse offense, but more importantly, their defense has given up 166 rushing yards per game and 4 yards per carry. And to me, when you go on the road, you need to run the football, shut down the run, and force turnovers. And that's what Cincinnati does. I like Luke Fickell as an underdog. Think they get the outright victory, 34-27 over Memphis this coming weekend. Ohio State on the road to face Michigan. Ohio State's won 7 straight by an average margin of victory of 12.2 points per game. Got this victory last year in dominating fashion as a 4-point underdog. Since 2000, Ohio State 16-2 over the Wolverines and have won those games by an average margin of victory of 9 points per game. When you look at this ball game, for me, it comes down to the front 7 of Chase Young and Ohio State. They're holding opposing offenses to 91 rushing yards per game, only allowing 126 passing yards to opposing quarterbacks. Their ability to force turnovers, they're +11 in turnover margin heading into this matchup, and their ability to run the football consistently, 282 rushing yards per game, is the difference going up against Michigan in this matchup. I look at Michigan, I look at that ball game on the road against Wisconsin with a very physical, heavy offensive line. They got worn down at the point of attack, 320 rushing yards allowed. The mobility of Justin Fields will be a concern in this matchup. They haven't faced a quarterback with his athleticism up until this point in the season, and I do feel that Ohio State keeps it rolling. They get a 14-point or more win over Jim Harbaugh and the crew. A lot of pressure on Michigan to start fast in this ballgame. This is a defense in Ohio State that's only allowing 10 points per game. Very solid in third down defense, holding opposing offenses to right in the area of about 25% on third downs. That's the difference. Ohio State does get a quality road win over Michigan and moves to 12-0 on the year. Big battle taking place in the Iron Bowl. Alabama on the road against Auburn. What can you say? Alabama's won 4 of the last 5 in the series. Picked up this victory, 52-21 last year in Tuscaloosa. You look at Auburn right now. They played well against Sanford, dominating home win over an FCS opponent. On the flip side, Alabama dominated 66-3 over Western Carolina. They rushed for 231 yards. Mac Jones stepped up, only 12 passing attempts, but he played well in the system. Now he goes on the road. A lot of pressure for Alabama to break through in this ballgame, but I feel that this game does favor Auburn. Let me tell you why. You look at Auburn's defense. allowing 109 rushing yards per game and only 196 passing yards to opposing quarterbacks. They're going to stack the box and force Mac Jones to beat them over the top. When you look at Alabama, I said it a couple of weeks ago, it's not the same Alabama offense in terms of running the football that it was in 2017 and 2018 with Loxley and Dable at the helm. Under Sarkisian, only 2 games they pounded the rock for over 200. Last week against Western Carolina, week number 3 against New Mexico State, 318 yards. 2017 with Dable and 2018 with Loxley, a total of 18 times they pounded the rock for over 200. They were 17-1 straight up in those games. The only loss did come a couple of years ago on the plains to Auburn by 12 points. When you look at Auburn as well, from an offensive perspective, they're going to look to put some pressure on Alabama's defense. This is not the same Alabama defense that we've seen in recent years. They're allowing 130 rushing yards per game. That's one of their worst since prior to 2009. And that's the MO of Auburn, averaging 214 rushing yards per game and, more importantly, 4.8 yards per carry. But here's another concern and another reason why I like Auburn. I go back to that game against Georgia. Fourth quarter, they trailed 21-0. Gus Malzahn decided to go up-tempo against Georgia's defense to put the pressure on them and wear them out. They scored points in that ball game in a hurry. 14 points, had an opportunity to win that matchup in the end. That could be the game plan with Bo Nix starting the game. Up-tempo, look to get Bo Nix into a rhythm with short to intermediate passes on the perimeter to get Alabama's defense running sideline to sideline and look to score first in this ballgame to put the pressure on Mac Jones on the road. And I think they can do it. I think Auburn's playing with house money. Nobody's expecting them to win. Nobody's buying into the Tigers. I think they get the victory 28-24 over Alabama in this matchup. Another big battle takes place in the Big Ten. Wisconsin on the road against Minnesota. Wisconsin has won 9 of the last 10 in the series, but did lose this ball game 37-15 last year to Minnesota. To me, it's a tale of two teams. You have a Wisconsin team that won by 21 points against Purdue. To me, they seem to be getting stronger as the year progresses, 9-2 overall. This is the 3rd straight game that Wisconsin's rushed for over 300. They rushed for 300 in 2 weeks ago, the following week, and then 402 yards against Purdue last week. When you look at Wisconsin's defense, holding opposing offenses to 14 points per game, 24% on third down conversions. And I look at Minnesota, they got a gutty win against Northwestern, 38-22. But in the second half of that matchup, Northwestern was able to move the football on their front seven. And when you look at the MO, Minnesota has allowed 3 straight opponents to rush for over 100 yards. Let's look at the body of work. They beat Penn State, a physical ball club. They lost to Iowa, another blue-collar offense and defensive lines, and played very well against Northwestern, but that's another physical defensive front led by Patty Fisher and Gaziano that's very solid in run support. Now they're going up against another physical, heavy offense and defensive lines. I think it's a bad matchup for Minnesota. Wisconsin does get a 10-point win over the Golden Gophers this year, and both teams will be 10-2 at the end of the season. Another big battle takes place in terms of Oregon State. What can you say about Oregon? They allowed that opportunity to make it to the college football playoff slip. They lost that ball game to Arizona State, 31-28. Justin Herbert, 2 touchdowns, but also 2 critical interceptions that led to points and allowed Arizona State to win that matchup. Jaden Daniels, 408 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Oregon State sitting at 5-6 overall, played very good against Washington State, goes on the road in a rivalry game with a solid quarterback in Jake Luton, 28 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions, 2,714 passing yards. For me, they're a hungry team. They have something to play for. What does Oregon have to play for right now? Where is their mindset? I can't buy into the Ducks laying a big number. Even though they're at home, they might win. But Oregon State covers this 19-point number Saturday night in Eugene in the Civil War. Another big battle takes place between Clemson and South Carolina. Clemson has won 5 straight in the series. by an average margin of victory of 23.7 points per game. Got this win last year at home. At home by 21 points. But Jake Bentley put up 500 total yards of offense, and they were able to move the football on Clemson. Here's what I look at when I break this game down. Clemson set a school record with 4 straight games with 50-plus points. They were averaging over 200 rushing, over 200 passing the last 4 weeks, hitting on all cylinders. Now you have a bye week, the week before the end of the regular season. To me, that could be very detrimental to an offense, especially when you're hitting on all cylinders. On the flip side, you have a South Carolina team. Prior to that game against Texas A&M, the front seven was holding opposing offenses to 3.7 yards per carry and only 1 rushing touchdown over the last 3 weeks of the season. On the year prior to that game against Texas A&M, South Carolina only allowed 5 rushing touchdowns. They're allowing right now 153 rushing yards per game, 4.1 yards per carry. But I think the bye week benefited South Carolina more, the Gamecocks, than it did the Tigers. Not only that, this is South Carolina's bowl game, sitting at 4-7. Clemson wins, but South Carolina does cover this 25-point number Saturday afternoon, playing at home in Columbia. Look for them to shorten the game, force some turnovers, and more importantly, get Clemson into a lower scoring, ugly ball game this coming Saturday afternoon. Another big battle takes place in Salt Lake City. Utah looking to get to the Pac-12 championship game with only 1 loss. On the flip side, you have a team in Colorado that has won 2 straight, got a gutty victory 2 weeks ago against Stanford, 16-13, picked up a win over UW, 20-14, 5 sacks in that matchup. You have a Utah team that has won 2 straight in the series, picked up this victory last year, 30-7 in the snow in Boulder. They're home. They're playing very well, coming off a 35-7 win over Arizona. Their ability to run the football with Zach Moss over 200 yards last week and wear down a smaller defensive front in Arizona was the difference. But this is a speedy wide receiver core by Chenault and by Tony Brown for Colorado that can challenge Utah's defense over the top. Now, Utah only giving up 187 passing yards per game, but they traditionally struggle with speed teams. To me, Colorado catching 28 and a half points, looking to become bowl eligible, has an opportunity to keep it within the number. I like what Mel Tucker's done. When you look at the flip side, last year, Colorado, they started 5-0, lost 7 straight games to finish at 5-7. They had an opportunity to become bowl eligible last year at home in Boulder under McIntyre. Couldn't do it. They showed mental resolve this year, winning 2 straight to get back into the hunt. I think they push Utah to the limit. The pressure of getting to the college football playoff could be a concern. Colorado's +4 in turnover margin, 11 total sacks over the last 4 weeks. They're getting solid quarterback play. I like their running back, Fontenot. They keep it within the 28-point number this coming Saturday. We're just getting started. This is what college football is all about. Stay with me all season long. You can follow the show this coming Saturday, College Football Today. Stream it from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pluto TV, channel 517. Pluto TV, channel 517. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Have a happy holiday. I'll see you Saturday afternoon for 6 straight hours. Have a great weekend, everyone. College football is great. I just love talking about it.